I mean.
Oh, actually, just before you say, actually, you did answer that a second ago. You said like that this type of music can give people something that rock could not. So the experience is much more powerful.
Yeah.
So maybe that actually answers it.
Yeah.
I forgot to say that to him. Because in spite of the somewhat limited output of your band, you've had a wealth of influence on the younger so-called guitar bands. What's struck the common chord, do you think? What have accounted for that?
I'm not too sure, but I mean, I don't know really. I mean, I think we've just always. I mean, I think it helps because of the fact that when we, like I say, we haven't released that many records and stuff. But whenever we do release a record, it kind of it affects people. They kind of, and I don't know if it'll always be like that, but it has been for a while. Like it kind of. When people think they understand us, then they find they can't understand. They realise that they haven't really understood us, and then what they begin to realise is that they maybe never will, because it's a constantly changing thing. And from the point of view of influencing bands and stuff, I think because we were around for quite a while and stuff, that I mean, we've done it, you know, before they did, and I think we've showed that it can be done, and I think it inspires people. They go, "Oh, yes, it could be done like that," you know. The idea of being experimental, as experimental as the most avant-garde person, you know, the most avant-garde people in whatever form of music. You take their most experimental thing, and like we can do things that are just as experimental as that, but we can also do things that are just as poppy and dinky, sort of, and light as the most poppy things. We've got that whole freedom. I think that inspired people. That kind of freed people up a bit. I mean, not that we invented it, but we just kind of, we definitely pursued it. You know, helped, and that's not, you know, we didn't invent anything. We just kind of maybe sometimes coining something, or maybe just like. Putting it in brackets or something, but not exactly inventing it.
Right. I'm thinking list the names of several bands that have publicly cited your band as a major influence. You'd like you to give like a brief summation of each band. The first one being Ride.
Well, I don't know. When I first heard them, they seemed really fresh. That was their main characteristic, was a freshness. They also seemed to be, I don't know, it was mainly, the main thing that for me to characterise Ride was a freshness. That was the main thing. And with their album, that for me was in a way, for me was them being introspective from my point of view, you know, not from their point of view, but from my point of view. It wasn't so fresh, but it wasn't worse, it wasn't stale, it was just it was them kind of working on maturing, whether it may be a bit too fast possibly, but it, yeah.
Okay, good enough, yeah. Sí, Pale Saints.
I don't know, I mean, they've got their own thing. Then, you know, I like them, but I'm not a big fan or anything. I think they're okay, you know. I think they've got an individual attitude towards, you know, they're not trying to necessarily, I really love the record Kinky Love, basically. Oh, that was great. It's Kinky Love. You know that? Kinky Love? I thought that was great. I thought, because there's an element of the Pale Saints that they didn't put across, which is that they have the members of the band have quite a sort of unserious attitude, a very sort of slightly, they can be very, what's the word? Not cheeky, but disrespectful, in a kind of irreverent, they're very irreverent as people, and I thought that kind of captured that in a way that sometimes their music doesn't, you know. Lush, yeah. Well, Lush, I've known Emma for years. Emma from Lush, and Mickey.
Lush のエマとミッキーはもう
I've known them for a long time.
昔からお友達で
And Emma, I've seen Emma write songs before we even were on Creation that were like Lush style of songs, and I know that Lush get a lot of their melodies and musical ideas come from not from us. It comes from something else. I think, but where we inspired Lush was they used to go to our gigs all the time. Always, Lush would be at our gigs, and I think we inspired them to sort of to really kind of pursue like just the idea of what that you can just do it. I don't think we influenced them as much as people might imagine. I think a lot of the essence of what Lush are was there before, before we made our first record on Creation. But I think we just inspired them from the point of view of they could play loud guitars and have nice melodies and stuff. That element, but not the essence of the band. I think is quite unique,
There seem to be a lot of performers coming out with a message of sort of love and peace. Lenny Kravitz, some of the
Delight.
Or some of the Manchester bands he notes as well. Do you have you formed an opinion about these bands, or is it something you've noticed at all?
I don't know really. I mean, it depends. Which Manchester bands?
Manchester バンドの中で、なんか割と安易に a vague love and peace.
Yeah, but I think from Candy Flip's point of view, they were going for a pop market mainly. But the guys in the band have got really good ideas, musical ideas. But a lot of the sort of stuff was a bit kind of, they're appealing to a teeny pop audience. I don't think it was. I think the bands themselves would go for much more aggressive, heavy music on their own. It's just that they were a pop band at that point. But I think bands like Lenny Kravitz and stuff, I mean, I think he's very much, he's into some sort of like serious musician trip. But he's good. I mean, he's pretty good, like songwriter and performer and all that. But I don't know. To me, he doesn't. I don't know. Maybe to me, sometimes I think he's a bit obsessed with the whole idea of what Lenny Kravitz is, as opposed to. It doesn't seem to reflect the world that much to me, anyway. I think the world's a lot more confused. The world's a lot more of an empty space at the moment, waiting to be filled in. Everyone's waiting, to figure out what everyone thought they knew what was what. And nowadays, nobody knows what's what. Anything could topple. The CIA could be gone. You know what I mean? In 2 or 3 years, the way things are going. The KGB is gone. I mean, the concept of what the world is and the world order has just changed. In this day and age, sure, love and peace is vital, but it's an abstract concept. There's a lot of practical things in the meantime that lots of serious wars going on.
It shouldn't be just sloganeering.
It's kind of it harks too much back to the sort of very naive 60s, where they thought, I mean, they had a lot of extremely relevant things to say, and the whole anti-Vietnam stance was brilliant, but just like it's an idealized sort of romanticized version of something.
Romanticism, You briefly explain the concept behind the title of the CD?
Mainly, the main concept, if there's any concept, is mainly it's a title where a lot of people will make up their own idea of what it's supposed to mean, and I like that. I've got a love-hate relationship with words and statements. Well, not love-hate statements. I don't like statements. Full stop. Well, I like statements as a thing, but not with words, because I don't get on with words that well. So the point being that I like to manipulate words and make them invisible, and even though they're there it is, but in some way that it's not meaningless, it's meaningful, but in a way that people will put their own meaning to it. It's often like sometimes with it in the same way that a classic. I mean, I don't know really. I mean, I think we've just always. I mean, I think it helps because of the fact that when we, like say, we haven't released that many records and stuff, but whenever we do release a record, it kind of. I mean.
Oh, actually, just before you say, actually, you did answer that a second ago. You said like that this type of music can give people something that rock could not.
Yeah.
The experience is much more powerful.
Yeah.
So maybe that actually answered it.
Yeah.
I forgot to say that to him.
Yeah.
It kind of, in spite of the somewhat limited.
It affects people. They kind of, and I don't know if it'll always be like that, but it has been for a while. Like it kind of. When people think they understand us, then they find they can't understand. They realise that they haven't really understood us.
Limited output of your band. You've had a wealth of influence on the younger so-called guitar bands. What's struck the common chord, do you think? What have accounted for that?
I'm not too sure, but and then what they begin to realise is that they maybe never will, because it's a constantly changing thing. And from the point of view of influencing bands and stuff, I think because we were around for quite a while and stuff, that